Hey everyone, Travis here at the first ever Smite World Championships with HiRezBart himself, who is one of the first people I've ever met who simultaneously runs a esports company division thing and also commentates at the same time. Yeah. What is it like managing both sides of that?
Well, I mean, in the office, it's a lot more of the business side of the work. I have a business degree, as we were just talking about. So there's a little bit more of the kind of biz dev and directional stuff. I have a lot of meetings. And then really most of the procedural esports work is done by the number 2 guy in the division, which is a guy named Adam. APC is his handle. And he works his ass off so that I don't have to mostly. I did it for about 2 years doing both for Tribes. And then we were like, this is completely unsustainable. Like, we need more people. And then at events, it's pretty good because I get to be just kind of like scumbag talent and let like the guys kind of take it and run with it. So it's been really, really awesome for me.
So do you ever, as the guy running the show, say, you know what, all those commentators are terrible except for that Bart guy. I really like him.
Yeah, I'm doing the finals, coincidentally. We actually have a really, really good team. We just moved one of our commentators, Dry Bear, off of commentary onto analyst desk to permanently anchor that, and brought in a guy from Europe, this dude Hindu Man, who's this British guy, to spice it up a little bit, because if not, we were 4 white dudes with beards. Yeah. So we've done a little bit of the mix and match, and our team is really strong. We all work together. So for me, it's always really easy to just say, hey, I have to do this interview, you know, you pick it up, and we all have kind of meshed together for these events. We boot camp for about 2 weeks. All the talent has been here for about 2 weeks, just grinding it out. So it's really, really an easy thing for us to do, to just kind of mix and match.
Now, one of the fascinating things to me, we were talking about this before the interview, is that it's not like you came in here from like a background of working at leagues before or whatever. You came in during the Tribes time and just started running all this. Mm-hmm. So because, you know, like you don't have like a bunch of experience in other places, where, especially in the early days, did you look at for inspiration, or how do you figure out, like, okay, this is what we should look like, this is how we want the tournament to go, or here's the structure of our esports decisions, that kind of thing?
No doubt. So no big surprise, I'm a big Dota fan. Dota 1 into Heroes of Newerth. Big fan of Honcast and everything they did. Big fan of Breaky CPK. And so the first thing that I ever did esports-wise was went to the NASL Season 2 finals to announce Tribes Ascend as an esport on Live on 3 with DJ Wheat and Sir Scoots. And so that event is really where I met most of the people that kind of forged the early path for us. Fish Sticks, Marcus, Scott, and just kind of talking to these guys and getting their insight into my own kind of crazy plans for where we wanted to be. Yeah. Now 3 years later, I finally get to run my first league, right, which kind of culminated with this. So it was a long path, and we built it, right? So it was kind of organic, and we had a lot of mistakes, but certainly through Tribes and now through the first couple of years of Smite, we've learned a lot. So just a quick example, like Smite we ran like 56 weeks of one-off weeklies before we ran any kind of like locked-in league, just to make sure, one, that everything was working well, but also to allow for teams to come in and allow us some time to learn. So luckily, when we go to the world stage like this, we've actually had some time to prepare, and so that's why I think you see the quality of the event we were able to put on is the backlog of all the grinding we did.
Kind of moving with that topic and with what you were just saying, this caps off the end of the first season for you guys. How do you feel about the way that the league looked? I mean, I know you guys might be a little hesitant to talk about what next year is going to look like, or the next season, but how do you feel about how this first one went, and what are some of the lessons that you're looking for to take into the next season?
Sure. So just kind of a funny microcosm story about that. When we were making Tribes, one of the things that I just begged developers for was like demos, right? It's an FPS game, we have to have demos, we have to have replays. It's like the most important thing. And it started to come in towards the end, and in Smite we had full demo capability. So one of the big takeaways from this year was that we were broadcasting these games, and we kept on having these issues where like the servers weren't streaming the games fast enough, and we'd have to pause, and like, you know, and so the season, you know, did have those technical issues. And then we're sitting there looking at it, we're like, we're idiots. Like, we worked for a year to get a demo system. We'll just cast the games an hour later. Like, it's going to be great, you know? And so, like, the last few weeks ran like butter smooth. So looking forward to next year, just at the production level, right? A very small piece of it. That's definitely a big takeaway. And then that kind of as a whole, we learned a lot about kind of rhythm. Like, we did games 4 days a week this year. I think we're going to pare that down a little bit moving into next year. Our content schedule around it's going to change a little bit. So it's all just fine-tuning, iteration. The company is like crazy flat high res. Like, there's like the employees and then the executives. There's no like management, middle management, and it's also really crazily Scrum focused. So we do lots of rapid iteration on things, inclusive of esports. So that's kind of where we are right now. Is like, all right, fix all the problems we had and move on.
Right. So kind of along the same lines. I mean, you've got the production side of things, but you also have the format structure and really the way that you're supporting your partners and organizations that are involved in all of this. How do you feel about the current state of like being what it's like to be a pro player in this in the series and in the league? And do you think that there's additional stuff you could do to support those guys?
Sure. So I think a lot of, well, I don't think I know, a lot of my focus in kind of what I do outside of the business partnership relationship management is team relationship management and ownership. So we're looking at a kind of an ecosystem now where the players are starting to get salaries from the teams. About 3/4 of the, all of the sponsor teams here do, but 3/4 probably the pro league teams are getting regular salaries. The structure of our payouts from the pro league is also a little bit different. We pay for every game you play. We pay double for winning than for losing. So we kind of set up this situation in which you can supplement your income in a lot of ways. For example, we paid, I think, 30% premium on all of your winnings if you streamed your games for the tournament. So there's a lot of different ways that we do that. And then it's working with like title sponsors like Curse and other big entities like Logitech and all the guys you see here, and starting to try to incorporate some of that money back into the esports teams and towards the players outside of the team structure. So that sounds a lot like a franchise model, which is not really what we're going to run next year, but it's definitely the kind of thing that when you look at sustainability in sports, ad money is what kind of drives all of this big sports leagues. So eventually we're going to go in that direction, one would assume, just given the market. Now, League of Legends style of subsidizing the players directly as pseudo-employees of the company definitely works, and I think it's something that you look at, and it gives you a lot of control in a lot of places. So the answer is we don't have a definitive plan for how we push forward through the next year. In the next year, we have plans for how to incorporate more money back to the players, but it's not that kind of here is the path, and we're going to be franchises, or we're going to be owning all of the teams essentially in 2017. My gut leans towards trying to incorporate more sponsorship money, probably over buying the teams, but I don't know. My accountants will probably tell me what I should do. Yeah.
So it's kind of along those lines, you guys had a very, very impressive prize pool for this. I know it's the third largest prize pool ever for an esports event. Is there any thought in maybe pushing some of the money from the prize pool over towards like the day-to-day for these guys, or incorporating maybe some of the, shifting some of the pricing? Because right now, basically, you win this thing, you get a huge thing. It's kind of more like the Dota model with TI, right. Whereas if you're, like the last place team in the league, you're not doing so well. That's right. Is that
50% payout to the first place right now? We are paying out all the teams that came here. So 8th place, I think, is still walking away with I think 1.5 percentage points, which is still a nice chunk of change for them. Yeah, no, I don't know. Specifically to deferring prize money out of a big pot to sustainable life.
Well, I shouldn't say deferring. I just mean you guys put so much, or there's so much money in this prize pool, and so there's kind of this uneven spread. A lot of people talk about this in the Dota scene, right. But some people like that. Some people say that if you're the top team, you should be getting so much money, and if you're the bottom, you shouldn't get that much. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on it, because right now I think you guys almost kind of sit in the middle between the league and Dota model.
Yeah, we pay out all the way down like Dota does, but we're a little bit less aggressive than they are in terms of skewing it towards the top. I think that all things told, in a perfect world, my executives let me add more content to the game for the teams to directly subsidize themselves. Yeah. And that is a big initiative actually for the next year, is going to be opening up better revenue streams for the teams to better sustain themselves with Smite, versus necessarily saying let's drop number one down to 40% so we can pay out 8% to the last place team. And also, this is a little bit of a unique tournament because we have such a disparity right now between the Western scene and the Eastern scene. Yeah. Next year, that's going to be a lot tighter as well. So that'll impact definitely how we address payouts. Yeah.
Now, sort of wrapping things up, I do want to ask where you think Smite Esports is in comparison to some of the other esports that are out there right now, and maybe things that you're happy with, things that you want to change in the future?
Yeah, I always love to think about, at our launch tournament, we had foam fingers, these big giant foam fingers that said we're number 3.
I heard about that, which I thought was amazing.
Right, and third biggest prize pool. We're number 3, and I'm happy to be number 3. I want to be number 2 someday, right? But Dota's got 15 years running on me, and League of Legends is the biggest multiplayer game in the world. So number 3 is a pretty good place to be when you're looking at giants like that. But we'll continue to grow, and we have a pretty different kind of. It's an action game, right? Yeah. So it's less the strategy game, more the action game. Obviously, both of the games incorporate both elements, but we're also just a really weird company, right? HiRez we're a bunch of goofballs, so I think we're pretty happy to sit just squarely at the top of mind as like the action MOBA if you want to go watch that. Yeah. And we make a free-to-play MMO or free-to-play multiplayer games, right? So there's a whole incubator team that's still just grinding on all kinds of stuff all the time. So for me, it's just having fun and yelling about video games and trying to keep things together.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for the interview. Really good insight.
Hey,
really appreciate it. Yes. You can watch out, or you can catch the rest of our coverage of all things Smite World Championships at ongamers.com.